Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Helena. Hi, I'll talk to you, family.
How are you, Nin?
I'm very good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
So,
also Yan. Yan has joined us as well. So welcome, Yan. Hi, Yan. How are you? Welcome and thank you all for tuning into the Three Souls Awakening live chat series so far. And with approximately 600 views in the past month, the community has been growing very fast. growing It blows my mind and it makes me so excited, so excited that there's other awakening souls out there. And I hope that it resonates with you all, and come and join and share and follow and like, because we have so much more to do. And we are loving the interaction and want to continue the conversation with you all. And as we co-create and as we share our experiences, as we talk about our life and dream about the future, we're going to co-create a more understanding and loving world for all of the souls that are awakening like us. So chat with us in the comment, say hi, leave a comment, ask a question, request to come on live with us. We'd love to have you here.
also welcome, Tao, for joining us. Great to have you here. All right. I think, Nin, we should just start. Let's share. Let's listen to Nin's second awakening moment.
Thank
to
you.
Nin.
To me, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, so welcome to my second awakening moment. Obviously, Vicky is traveling today, so I'm filling in for her. She's actually joined us earlier, but she's hopping off a bus at the moment. So maybe she may pop in a little bit later and join in the conversation. Yes, so okay, thank you all for tuning in. So my second story, I've just continued on. I'm going to continue on the timeline from my first awakening, which obviously, if you joined my first awakening live chat, you will know that it occurred in 1991 when my grandma passed away. She was the one person in my life that actually showed me how unconditional love looked like. And I was 13 years old there. I'm settling into Australia. I would have been in year 7, so going through that transition from primary to high school as well. And when she passed away, my heart cracked in two. And then, so moving on to after she passed away, I mentioned that my heart was very numb. I was in a shock. I didn't really talk about it. I didn't really express it. I had really good memories of her, but and often looked through the photos and so forth. But I just kind of went on with my life. So moving forward to 1995, I was 18 years old and graduated. Actually, I started my university degree in accounting. I had no idea what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do, what was out there for me. I didn't really know what the world was like either. Up until then, I kind of just went to school, came home, and went to school, came home. So I started out in university as an accounting student, but then I graduated in 2000 actually, in marketing. And as I was graduating in 2000, I had met my husband, at 21 years old. At 21 years old. Hi, Tao. I met my husband and got married. So I literally met him in August 2000. By December 2000, I was proposed to. By 2001 June, I was engaged. And then 4 months later, in October, I had my Cambodian ceremony and was officially fully married. So by the time I actually married, I was 22 years old, and that was in 2001. And moving along to 2002, so 2002, I was 23 years old. I had my first son. He's now 20 this year. And then proceeding to 2005, I had my second son, and I was around 26 years old when I had him, 26, 27, around there. So moving along with life, up until here, I don't think I really had any major awakening. I think I had a little bit of a breakdown when I was in university in 95, and switching between accounting and marketing. I would have to say early on in my life that I learned that my left brain and my right brain, I think my right brain worked better than my left brain. And so I started off in accounting in a kind of, I think, left brain kind of course, and then came out on the other end in marketing in a more right brain kind of course. So I had a little bit of a nervous breakdown then, but I don't think I had a major awakening up until 2002, just backtracking a little bit to 2002. So after I had Philip, my first son, I remember him being about 1 month old, and I could see some cracks already in the family. I can see the energy in the family was a little bit off, and but I was very busy at the time with just had a baby and getting married and having a baby in such a short period of time, that I was kind of in denial. I was just kind of sweeping it under the rug. And then so we continued as a family until 2005, when I had my younger son, and the cracks were very, very clear at that time. But still, we continued on until 2007, being 28 years old. My parents divorced, and my dad left the family home and went off and did his own thing. And that was the moment of my second awakening, a rude awakening. This was the second time when I would say when my grandma passed away, my heart cracked in two. It was already broken at that stage, but but in 2007, I think my world just shattered, the world that I knew but my whole life up until that day when my parents divorced and my dad actually left the house, the family home. My whole world, my perfect image of my life up until then, just shattered into 1,000 pieces, and shattered into 1,000 pieces along with my heart also. And that was a rude awakening, and mind you, this was happening as I was getting married, as I was having my first child, as I was having my second child. So I was kind of building my own little family, and hoping in my heart to have a perfect family just like my parents, right? But when that happened, my whole world spiraled out of control. I was a mess, literally a mess, an emotional wreck. And I would say that I even had a nervous breakdown, a second one at that time. And all my emotions, I started to experience these emotions that I never experienced before in my life, and it was like a spiral of emotion, a big ball of emotion as well, like a fire in my heart, and it wasn't a good fire. It was like a mix of hatred and anger and feeling of abandonment and shame, because my family, we are a big family and we're very well known in the Cambodian community, and so for this to happen and actually in the physical happen, it's all good when it's all behind closed doors, but when it's actually happened and everyone knows about it, it was very shameful, humiliating, at that time too. And I felt rejected, rejected. I was just like, our family's perfect, but why did my dad leave? What? At the time, I did not know that it was an awakening, but I was in the midst of all of these really powerful emotions. Like I said, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, and there was so much unforgiveness in my heart. I would kind of say to myself, if I will only accept him back, if he apologized to me, I would always say that. Only if he apologized to me will I forgive him and accept him back. And and so oops. So and this feeling of unforgiveness, of abandonment, rejection, all of this emotion, obviously over 10 years, because it wasn't until 2017 that I actually forgave him. And it wasn't because he apologized. He never apologized. I don't actually really have a relationship with him since then. But I think the first couple of years after he left was the most difficult, because I had this family, I had a husband and I had 2 little kids to take care of, and I was like a mess, and emotionally and physically, and I was thinking to myself, how am I going to pick myself up, all these little pieces of myself, and pick myself back up. And but then, like us women, we are so powerful, and in our most weakest moment, we find that little bit of strength to pick ourselves back up. And then I made a decision at that time that I was not going to have a relationship with my father, and I was just not going to focus on that. I was going to leave it there. Couldn't change it anymore, and I was going to move on with my life. I guess similar to when Helena experienced the gun, her first awakening with the gunshot. You mourn it for a little period, but then after that, you just pick all your pieces, that's been shattered, and put them kind of back together as best as you can. And, I had a focus of my 2 boys, but definitely that awakening moment allowed me to put into perspective what was important in life. Having that picture perfect family. I didn't want a picture perfect family. I wanted, even though my family, I would say, was picture perfect, but on the inside there were cracks, and there were, it wasn't perfect. And so I think the lesson that I learned from that was not to desire that picture perfect family, and that perfection is like an illusion. It's an illusion because it can be ripped out from under you in a second, in an instant, and you can't even do anything about it. But I have to say, good news. Wanted to end on a good note. So this is the picture on my 40th birthday in 2017. This was the transitional year for me, where I was able to forgive my father, and I had another awakening moment, which I will share with you later in another episode. But around my 40th birthday, I looked back on my life and thought, wow, I have that picture perfect family. It's not picture perfect to everyone else, but inside it's perfect, like my boys are beautiful, my relationship with my husband is beautiful. I was happy, I was happy at 40. And I think from that state, I was able to forgive him. So, because I was happy with my own life and I created my own beautiful little family. Um, yeah, so that's my little story on my seconding awakening moment. So the moment that my parents divorced and my dad actually left, and the whole world knew about it now, was my second awakening moment. It really taught me that perfection does not exist, and that if we are seeking perfection and we're trying to control and keep it all together, which my parents were trying to do for many years, it would just all won't work anyway, and it just be taken away from you in that moment, in a moment's eye, against your will, and then you just have to start from scratch again. So nothing is perfect in the world, and I would say that our desire and our chasing for perfection sometimes lead us astray, when we really need to, like Helena always says, to pause and actually, you know, uh, come from a more intentional place emotionally and physically as well. That's it. That's my second awakening. Um,
Wow. Well. Thank you. That's I guess it's not something that everyone will experience in terms of a sort of family, especially parents breaking up. So thank you for sharing. Look, I do have this question. Like obviously, it happened when you were 28 years old. So do you think it was easier for you being older and not, sort of being a child to experience that?
mm, yes, I think so. Only because I have to say that, because it happened to me when I was already married and when I had children and so forth. So I had a lot of love around me, and support around me to get through it. And I think one of the many a few decisions that I had to make was, well, I had to find my new place, within the extended family. And so I made a conscious decision to protect my children and my husband and my mum, um, to protect them from all of the backlashes and all of the things that come with a divorce, or the negativity. And so chose to shield my family and to, I think, draw a line, and then I remember thinking that I deserve to be happy too. Yes, this has happened, and yes, that my dad had made that decision, but I still have a choice of how I want to live my life. I think being 28 and experiencing life already has allowed me to handle that better, to process it better. Obviously, had this happened when I was 13, as my first awakening, I think my life would be so much different. I think I wouldn't really have any choices, like choices would have been made for me. Whereas, like, being at 28, I was able to make choices for myself. And I actually came to understand that, the importance of like our heart, because my heart was shattered, and I did not want to do that to my husband, my newly married husband, and my little babies as well. So I remember making a decision to protect my own heart, and to because I knew that I had to be happy to be able to create a happy family, and so therefore I made certain decisions in my life. They were tough decisions, but I did it firstly because I wanted to maintain good memories of my family and of my dad and my parents' relationship, and then secondly, I wanted to protect my children, and my husband, my newly married husband, from all the backlash and stuff. And now being 40, and looking back on my life, at that time, I felt that I could. They were tough decisions, but I felt like I made the right decisions, and so therefore I was in a more, I guess, matured and more happier state, and so my heart just kind of forgave him, like even, like I was like, I didn't need an apology anymore. I was able to just let it go and forgive him, and actually have, that love in my heart for him.
Okay, that's good, because I think at the end of the day, it's they're still our parents, and they will make decisions based on whatever is right for them as well, right?
Yeah.
Just like the way that we make our choices for everything
Mm.
that we do. So obviously we should allow for that as well, whatever makes them happy. So look, how did that affect the way you parented your own children?
How did that affect them? Um, hmm, Let me think about that one. How did it affect?
How,
Definitely, like I said, I wanted to shield them and protect them. Not just from the situation, but also from all the backlash. All the uh, I would say, 3D, obviously, like I mentioned, like my family was picture perfect, right? Not just in my own eyes, but in the Cambodian community's eyes. Like everyone really looked up to my mom and dad, and like my mum's family and my dad's family, they really looked up to them, and so for this to happen, like I said, it was very humiliating, very, and then as you understand, like from 2002 to 2007, when it actually happened, was 5 years, 5 years. And so us in the family, we kind of had been experiencing all the turmoil and that, but the rest of the community and our extended family, really had no idea, because, my mum, we were trying to keep the face, keep the reputation, keep that picture perfect family for as long as we could. But it cracked in 2007, and I just didn't want them, growing up being judged, being ridiculed, being side-eyed. I didn't want them to experience all of that, because that was not their choice. You know what I mean? So, like I said, even though I experienced my parents' divorce, but my children, in a way, they were only 2007. I think they were like, well, I can't calculate, 5 and 2. When it actually happened. And so, in a way, they kind of lost their grandfather too. You know what I mean? So they kind of, at that moment when he left, lost it too. But I did remember, um, that I wanted to handle it with love. I wanted to be honest and truthful. So as soon as the kids could remember, could understand, I would tell them. When we see him, I would introduce them to him. And then look, when they're 18, I always kept the decision that if they choose to have a relationship with them, with their grandfather, that so be it. Um, and and that was their choice. Not even 18, but any time that they wanted to, came to me and they wanted to have a relationship with him, that I would allow it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have a question from Melita. How did your mother react?
My mum. Yeah. So my mum, like I said, she didn't have her awakening. Like, she went through life, and I think my parents' divorce was an awakening for her, but um, still, because she's such a strong woman, she was able to pick herself up, and continue on, soldier on. So I don't think she had that would have been like her first awakening, but like, I don't think she actually fully awoken until, when she was 60, right? As I mentioned, and when she had her spiritual awakening. But it definitely shook her core. You know what I mean? You'll find like people who are 3D energy or lower, some 2D energy. Their core has to be shaken first, and then they may experience a full awakening. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or 4 or more awakening to awaken people, um, uh, so that they can experience their full awakening. So my mother, she's so strong, and like I said, she was so humiliated, but she was such a strong woman that she was able to still function in society, and but my mom also, she has such a good heart. Like, she's such a loving person, even though she's a generous person. And so lots of people loved her, lots of people loved her. And so I think it was more sympathy that she experienced. Like, people would come up to her and say, oh my God, I can't believe it happened. I just don't understand it. People were actually shocked, because it's just like, you're such a perfect woman, we respect you so much, you're so generous, you're so lovely, but we don't understand how he could have left you. So that was things. And my mum, I think, even though it was a bad thing, I think a lot of people gave her a lot of love and support. But I think she also, later on in life, we talked about it when we were able to, and she actually said to me that she couldn't go against her. Like, she loved my dad enough to let him go, so she was able to let him go with love. Like, yeah. And she always said that she still loves my dad, yeah, but she had to let him go because she loved him. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is so powerful.
Mm.
When you are able to let the other person go because of love, because you love them.
Yeah.
That is just so powerful. Oh, wow. Sending
Yeah.
shivers now. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, like setting them free. Yeah.
Okay. And so, in terms of your relationship with your father, in
Mm.
before and after, obviously it would have changed, right?
I think being such a loving family, like, there was love in the family. I would say that, my dad is very 3D, and so what happened, I think maybe he left because he had his own awakening, like maybe his first awakening, like a rude awakening. And so he had to go and find himself and, do whatever he had to do in that process of awakening, right? But obviously we were on the back end of it, having to feel, having to feel abandoned and go through, the backlash of his awakening. You know what I mean? And so I think, like, my relationship, because I do see other people, they have a really good relationship with their parents or their father or their mother, whoever, like, left, and they still are able to continue with their relationship. Sadly for me, I know that my dad loved me, but I think he's probably even a 2D, not a 3D energy. And so his way of loving is just to keep it all in. He didn't really know how to love us growing up when we were younger. Like, we really didn't have a relationship with him. And so when he left, we didn't really have a relationship either after. So I think like it like if your relationship as a child with your parent is close, then I think after divorce, and I think after all of that, I think you can come back together and rekindle some kind of relationship. But for me, specifically me, I love my dad and everything, but growing up, he was very like quite absent, and we didn't really connect, on a more emotional level or anything. To me, he was just that picture perfect dad that went and provided and, gave me everything that I needed. I had a picture perfect life, and but I didn't really have a relationship with him. So therefore, it was hard to even have a relationship with him after.
Okay. I mean, if we were to actually talk about that, just expanding on that topic, in the generations before us,
Mm,
that's all they knew to do,
mm,
was to be the breadwinner, right? Work hard, do what they have to do in order to provide for the family. It was all about hard work so that they can provide for the family, that they were never taught how to love the family, how to even express love, you see.
mm.
And that's actually very common in society, the older generation I'm talking about. I, it's no
Yeah.
one to blame, but that's how
No.
they've been brought up, and
Mm.
that's how they thought it was supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we
I
can't blame them, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't express love. However, a lot of people don't know how to express love, because I mean, if
Yeah.
I look back at my family, we're not we're not a family that knows how to express love.
Mm. So that's
And
why I would even say, like, I think from my dad specifically, um, I would say even he's like 2D, because there wasn't a lot of exactly what you said, Helena. I don't think he was taught how to love, like maybe he didn't receive that much love from his parents in the way that we know now, like a lot of, togetherness and words of affirmation and, hugging and all of that stuff, like there was pretty much none of that stuff,
no,
between my dad and I. And like I said, he was pretty much absent most of the time, just trying to make a living. And,
mm,
I would say keeping up with that perfect family, like I remember, like I had everything, had went from a one-story house to a two-story house to, had pretty much everything, right? And so, and I think my
well,
poor dad, he kind of sustained all that, but in sustaining that, he was absent a lot. But
mm,
but also, I think also because he just didn't know how to express it. I'm pretty sure
correct.
he loved me a lot.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Correct. And that's how it was. And I guess we'll just have to accept that, as
yeah,
being a part of life. Wow. Okay. Look, what an awesome, episode. I obviously, we're always reflecting on everything that we talk about.
mm,
And I just love being able to go back and think about, sort of what we have in terms of our stories, how that actually reflects on our own life. And I
mm,
can understand sort of what goes on in, what has happened to you. And, if you look at this situation, it's like, well, it is pretty much what we go through as well, what the older generation goes through, is not
yeah,
knowing how to express love, and then finding that it's not what the kids want, because the kids are a different, you know not to say that they're a different breed, but they're obviously in a different generation. They want to see more love. They want to see more interactions. They would love us to be there. And again, it's about the present moment, right? Being able to live in the present moment rather than working hard to provide a future when we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I guess it ties up with what I spoke about, in the last episode about the present moment, living in the present moment, loving in the present moment, and doing everything with your children in the present moment.
And having a balance, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about not working hard and not chasing your dreams and you're doing all of that stuff, but having a balance of it. And having a balance.
And it's not about perfection, right? So I've learned also that, everything, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. We should be working towards progress, because perfection just means that you will reach a ceiling. Progress doesn't allow you to expand, to grow. So therefore, we should be aiming for progress rather than perfection. And having that balance. Okay, so next week we're going to take a pause. Here comes the word pause. From storytelling, and we're going to do an episode on defining what an awakening moment is, and try and answer any questions that you may have over the last sort of past month. So if you do have questions, please email us at support@hearttalktoyou.com.